recently, he has to trace his family back. How far back do you think is really far back? How many decades or centuries is far? All right, 3 centuries, that's far. What else says it's far? Well, what's far to people? I can trace back my family 100 years max. Yeah. What about anybody else? How far can we go? 700 years. All right. The year 900. All right. Our next speaker has recently traced his family back to the year 600 CE. That's over 1400 years. So please welcome the geologically astounding Will.
My name is Will Doane. I am a research staff member with the Science and Technology Policy Institute. You heard from my colleague Shirley Hahn yesterday morning at 9 o'clock, and you'll be hearing from another colleague of mine, Tyler Morgan-Wall, who's I saw in the audience. There we go, Tyler, will be the next speaker after the next speaker. STPI was chartered by Congress in the early 90s to support the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. And so very often we face challenges dealing with qualitative data, such as having vast amounts of information, no time whatsoever to try to process it, and needing to work in isolated air-gapped systems. There are commercial tools available to help you with qualitative document coding. I'll talk about what that is in just a sec. But not the kind of things we can do in an air-gapped space, not the kinds of things that make it easy for us to work on quick turnaround. Sometimes the turnaround time from the time we get asked a question to the time we need a response is a matter of hours. Right? So every few months or so for the past 5 or 6 years, I've been thinking, well, maybe I could do something with Shiny that would help me with this, and that would allow me to run on my local compute cluster in this air-gapped space. I took another shot at it a few months ago, and this is where I've come up to. So what do I mean by qualitative document coding? We have textual data, lots of textual data. It might be academic papers, it might be transcripts, it might be automated transcripts from like YouTube videos, anything that can be converted to text. And qualitative coding is basically going through, as we all did in high school and college, you go through with your markers of different colors to signal the meaning of different things. We do that and then collect the data about how many times we marked something one way or another. It's called coding. We also collect the marginalia, the margin notes. Why did we mark that? Why did we feel that way? This is meant to be an eye chart. The only things that are important for us here are the big bold words. So don't try to parse the rest of that. That's okay. Qualitative coding. 2 modes with qualitative coding typically employed. Inductive, where you start with a set of codes and then code your document according to that code set. Or deductive, where you start with your documents and start coding things that are interesting to you and then figure out what the codings and clusterings and hierarchy of those codes are. Right? I wanted a tool that would support both of those modalities. I wanted to be able to support multiple coders, because me marking up a paper doesn't mean that what I've marked up is truth. I need other people to also mark it up and then have conversations with them about what we disagree on, what we agree on, and so on. I need that coding to be independent. So when I'm coding, I don't want to know what anybody else has coded things as. I don't want them to influence me, and I don't want my codes to influence them. I want us to do it independently, and then for us to be able to compare and contrast. We need to usually do this in an iterative way because we won't agree. There won't be 100% inter-rater reliability ever, and there won't be 100% on the first pass, certainly. So I did what everyone does, right? I wrote an app using Shiny. I started thinking about what the current affordances were in Shiny for something that really felt like an app. This is an about page that's built into the app for people who are coming to it who might not have a background in qualitative coding, to be able to ground them in the topics that we're thinking about. The app has a little sign-in screen. I don't do any authentication because I trust people on my air-gapped network. If I don't, they shouldn't be in my compute space. So the user provides their username, signs in. They get forwarded to a projects page that shows the projects they've created up to that point, and off to the left, they can create a new project just by giving it a name and providing a description, as I've done here. You click add, Now it's on your projects list. When you select a project from the list, it takes you to the code book for that project if you've already established one. And if you haven't, you can start adding new codes on the left-hand side. When you're adding codes, you can specify foreground and background colors so that when we start highlighting the documents, it's actually highlighted using CSS. And it's designed in such a way that multiple users can make use of it. So other people within my organization can see the projects I've created and the codes I've created so that they can collaborate with me on the coding efforts. There's a really simple, some of these screens are intentionally minimalist at this point. The app, even though I'm working from static screenshots here, the app works right now. It's a proof of concept, it's functional, but it's not pretty. I need to go make the code elegant now and upgrade some of the user experience elements. But a simple document upload where you can use the HTML browse feature to bring in, let me think, text documents, PDF, Word documents, Excel documents, XML documents. You can bring all of those things in. It will extract the text from those documents and turn them into plain text documents for you to be able to work with in the system. Once you've done that, there's then this documents screen and a pull-down menu that lists the titles of all of the documents you've brought in. When you select one of those documents, you have a scrollable text area. You can go through, highlight the text just as you would imagine you would. A little box pops up. Right now, I coded my complete own editor as a first pass. It was good, had a few issues that I wasn't happy with. I've been looking at other alternatives. The Recogito JS library seems to be an interesting one, so I've been playing with an implementation that relies on that. This is what the Recogito looks like. When you highlight something, it pops up your code book as colored tiles based on your background and foreground colors. You have the option of putting comments there, clicking the codes, or notice the word doctor there. You can type in a novel tag there. So if you're doing some version of deductive coding, you think something should be tagged, but the code doesn't exist for it yet, you can enter a novel tag there to have that element. You have the option of choosing one or more coders that you want to see what they've highlighted. So pull down select ties list in Shiny. You can check multiple items there. When you do that, you get a table of all of the codings that they've done. It's a little too much at the moment. You don't need to see the start and stop points of everything. But when you click an item in the table on the right, it jumps to that part of the document. When you click on a highlight in the left, it highlights that element in the table. A little bit of crosstalk working back and forth with these. There's even a regex-based autocoder built into the system right now. You give me a tag and a regular expression, click the button at the bottom to autocode, and it will go through all the documents and code the text. You might have noticed back on the authors list, one of the authors is autocode. So there's a special author dedicated to the autocoding efforts. At the moment, the only analysis that's in this as a proof of concept is just a frequency count, but it's pretty straightforward and trivial to start thinking about adding additional analyses. Certainly, we can talk about document coverage, what percentage of the document has been coded. We can talk about excerpt extraction, pull out all of the coded elements so that we can then review them as a team, perhaps, discuss our agreements and disagreements. We can do named entity recognition based on the data that's in there. Any number of intercoder reliability assessments. We can do standard kappa evaluations, Scots pi, percent agreement. Anything at this point, the data is simply a table of data that tells me who coded it, what did they code it as, in which document, starting at what character position, ending at what character position. So any kind of statistic that I could derive from that is fair game at this point. As I say, currently the frequency is already done. Trivial then to implement term frequency analysis, relative terms, inverse document frequency analysis, or to do some topic modeling on these documents. It's built around that project idea. So different people, different teams, you can come in, you can create a project, you can share that project with other people. You can have multiple coders working simultaneously in real time on whatever your subnet is. On the back end, I've coded it for 2 database systems right now. One is SQLite, so you can run it as a totally standalone app off the network entirely. The other is as an SQL server, so Microsoft's database offering. You can tie it into your enterprise SQL server and have all of your data stores processed there. And much to Jared's chagrin, that is largely the talk for today. So I'll leave you time for the gift announcements. This was the first screen that I created in the application. I'll just give you this as a design principle. Anytime you're creating an app, the first thing on your mind should be, how do users feedback to me? Right? I want to have a way for them to tell me what went wrong as soon as they start looking at my app. I don't want feedback to be an afterthought or forgotten entirely. So I build the feedback screen, have it in there, let people get in touch with me. Right now, this is a proof of, as I say, it's a proof of concept. I've got it hosted on a private GitHub repo. Eventually, I expect I'll make it public and distribute it as a package. But if you're interested in it, feel free to use that feedback link. Get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to keep you updated about progress. Thank you.